but I do think sometimes people think they're superior.
Right.
And that I don't really, doesn't sit well with me.
Right. And by those kind of people, would you be able to classify them as being either in management or an age group, or
I'm going to say
or
something.
Not? If it's not, then it's fine. It's just fine. It's just links with something somebody else said. And I'm just trying to tease it out.
I'm going to say something that I'm sorry if this.
No, don't worry at all. But, please don't worry.
I went to a comprehensive Catholic school.
So did I.
Okay, good. Before I carry on,
I went to all boys convent in Croydon.
Yeah. Oh really? Oh gosh. I went to the Echelon in Wimbledon. I'm very proud.
Yes, I went to St Joseph's at Dealer Hill. Yeah.
I'm very proud, but I think that other teachers that went to grammar schools think that they're slightly more superior than those of us that didn't. That is something I've definitely noticed.
Do you think that's just here?
I couldn't say elsewhere, because when I was at the Catholic school, most of the people that were there were Catholic themselves. They'd gone to Catholic schools. Well, actually, a lot of the male teachers had been to the school that they taught at. I know there's a few here as well. And it was never an issue where people went to school. It was a very different environment, whereas I definitely think here there is that us and them type situation.
Yeah. No, I have experienced that at all. I've actually had to call somebody out once who said something about the Croydon element that come to this school.
Oh, really?
Excuse me, can I stop you there? But I went to comprehensive in Croydon, and I didn't then list all my degrees. But
I mean, you turned out wonderfully.
Well, I have to say that you won't remember a lady called Caroline Walsh, who was an English teacher. In fact, I replaced her in English 3 years ago.
No.
She went to the Ursuline.
Oh, really?
I wouldn't say I wouldn't say she's the cleverest person I've ever met, because you won't remember Jean Kirk Smith, who was a Latin teacher.
The Latin teacher, yeah.
Who's probably is the most I've ever met. But Caroline was definitely the best teacher I've ever met, and she went to the Ursuline.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't teach. Before I came into teaching, I spent 6 months at Wimbledon College.
Oh, really? That's where my brother went.
Oh, really?
And my other half.
Right, yeah. And I spent 6 months there just to kind of. I got my job as I got my role on the PGCE.
Yes.
And I was an investment manager in the city.
Oh, wow.
And this job came up and my wife, she was the assistant bursar there.
Okay.
And she said, "Why don't you go for this job? Give up the job in the city 6 months early and go experience some time in the classroom." She'd been 20 years out of school. So it's like, well, okay, then why not? I'll go and do that. Yeah. And that was an experience. But I loved it there. I loved it.
It was when my brother was there. I mean,
it was very similar to my school, St Joseph's. I
can imagine.
It's a comprehensive. You get a wide variety of kids.
Yes.
For
sure.
And now a big SEN, because anyone who's SEN and Catholic in Merton will go to.
For sure. I was at Rich Challoner for my first placement, and they had a massive unit for SEN, and it was just incredible what they could offer these children. And it was because when I was doing my first masters, I actually trained with people with very severe learning disabilities and mental health, and so that was sort of where my heart was lying as well. I mean, I think that's something Catholic schools do incredibly well. And the school I'm moving to in September has a very big unit again. And I'm quite excited to be in that environment again, really, because I think it's so inclusive compared to when it used to be exclusive, didn't it?
Yeah. And certainly when I was at school, it was a problem. When I think back now.
Yeah.
Okay, and then just moving on to government policy.
Yes.
Do you read much government? Do you follow it at all? Not necessarily going on the government website, but do your ears kind of?
Sometimes I will occasionally check the latest, things. I know there's been a lot of stuff going around about the GCSEs and the new marking systems. To be honest, when I was doing my PGCE, yes, obviously I engaged in educational literature, but I think I try not to engage myself too much, which I know is probably wrong, but more just because I find it frustrating.
Right.
So I think sometimes I just think, give these poor children a break. I don't know. I think maybe it's because of my background. It's like sometimes here you can smell the anxiety.
Right.
And I think that the government and the policies and the things that come out haven't.
Do you mean the anxiety with the kids or the staff or both?
Both.
Yeah. And parents to a degree, or less so?
I think less so.
They don't have much interaction with parents,
exactly. Apart from parents evening things. Yeah. Less so with the parents.
Okay. And just thinking of policies, and obviously I'm conscious that you've been in the classroom for 2 years, but I suspect a lot of the policies are very similar. So I just kind of want you to focus just on the 2 years rather than the time before that.
Yes. I've forgotten that anyway.
But are there many policies that you think may have impacted your practice in any way? And I'm thinking of things like extra money to grammar schools, teaching British values has come up in the last few years, accountability, I think, of teachers and performance management. guess, academisation and multi-academy trusts and teachers' contracts and things like that. Has any of that affected you in any way? 'Cause it's only been a couple of years, I know, but...
I don't think that these things have necessarily affected me, but I'm very aware of them.
Right.
I think the thing that I'm very aware of is the performance-related pay.
Yep.
I know that's something that has been brought to my attention through emails via unions and things, you know, to see what our opinions are. And obviously it doesn't affect me in my first year as I'm not obviously graded in that way. But I know the school that I'm going to and the school that I was at before, it was not performance-related. You would go up the scale.
Sure. Yeah.
Which I think is fair. I think that the accountability isn't particularly fair either, because although you can teach a child and give them your all, if someone isn't going to get an A star, they're not going to get an A star. And I think it's almost it almost makes anything other than that unimportant.
Right.
So I think for me, you know, I don't know. I just think it's something that I'm very much aware of for my future career. I don't really know where I'm going to end up, but I think I would hate to be judged on grades.
Sure.
And I know that's how it's going to have to be, but
you feel there are other aspects of your role that, because they can't be measured,
yes,
nobody cares about.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Well, I put words in your mouth there, but
no, but you're right. But I think, I don't know, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I think it feels maybe because we are a grammar school that it is much more grade orientated.
Yeah. I mean, I've been here 11 years and it wasn't always like this.
No, I have heard that.
That's my frustration.
I've heard
it wasn't always like, and yet actually our grades were better before.
Yeah.
And I think and what was perhaps more important, and this probably goes into what you said earlier about some of our teachers kind of inflate their value in the world, is that I always think we are just, and I openly say to the skills, we are just a stepping stone. It doesn't really matter. I mean, I didn't ask you what your A-levels were, A-level results were, because I don't really care. Once you've told me all your is that actually we're just a stepping stone, and once they get into the university of their first choice, then actually, I'm not saying the A-levels don't matter, but to a degree, they don't really matter, and therefore our input's important, but we aren't, and sometimes I feel that teachers forget that. They think that we are the be-all and end-all.
Oh, I
and
agree.
Actually we are just O-levels, sorry my age, GCSEs for our girls are generally a stepping stone to the A-levels, which are then a stepping stone to degrees, and then hopefully moving on from there. And actually our role isn't as important as we like to make out. I think sometimes I find that the girls accessing not even the Oxford and Cambridges, but the Russell Group universities, they're certainly no better or worse. I think, especially with the increase in interviews, I think our girls don't perform well at interviews. No. And having just done the MMIs last week, I was quite appalled at how bad they were.
I'd heard, I wasn't involved, but I heard, some things, and I thought,
I was quite, and it's interesting, I just sat, and I know it's partly the demographic, I'm going off track now.
No, it's very interesting.
It's partly the demographic of the girls. I sat there with a lot of the girls from my bottom set English group.
Oh, okay.
I was thinking, why, you're lovely, but why are you here? And it may not be your fault, it may be your parents' fault and so on, because of the pressures that are put on them. But I gave them a piece of text that was about this much, and they had to read it in 2 minutes, and then there was quite a complex question at the end, and bless them, they
just couldn't.
And I kind of thinking, I remember saying to you in year 8, you need to read books. I remember looking at me thinking, but I'm going to become a doctor and do science. I don't need English.
But they are aware that, there are skills involved,
But no matter how much you push them anyway.
That's something that I actually really struggle with if I'm going back to sort of, I suppose it is a bit of self, but also with the policies and also the way the school is run. I had never felt any pressure by my parents to be something. Right, it was you do what you want to do, and they were always very proud. The one thing, my dad wanted me to do law, and I had a place at Birmingham to do law, but I wanted to do psychology, and I did appease him in some way by doing politics as well, and I loved it. I mean, I loved my A-level. I didn't enjoy the degree, because it was a old boys club. Unfortunately, there were some horrible people, but they were very proud. And I do think it's quite sad here, because the girls will say, "Oh, I'd like to be a teacher. I'd like to do this," but my parents won't let me. It's almost like we're so insignificant. I find it
heartbreaking. When I was a sixth form tutor as well. And I'd see this girl who just loved English, and she did English, but her parents made her do the sciences. The other 3 were sciences. She got an A-star in English, and she got E's, U's.
Because she didn't really want to do it.
She didn't want to do it. And we managed to get her back into sixth form the next year through a bit of hustling. And she did English, and I don't know how we managed it, but she did do a couple of others. I think we put her onto something like history and something else, and I said I'd help her out anyway. We got her through anyway,
Oh,
which was lovely.
Yeah.
But yeah,